So we can just go as we did last time with chapter 3 and then the appendix E and then the other articles, if we just want to talk about each chapter and article. So does anyone have any insights that they want to talk about from chapter 3?
I guess my overall that I came away with is that we have to have a meaningful vision before we can even like really work on our goals or our objectives.
Yeah.
And we have to have, hi Sadie, if we don't have a stake in whatever we're doing. I mean, I actually have a company that I'm a co-owner in. And so if you don't have a stake in whatever you're doing, whether it's a company or a workshop or schooling, it's not going to have the same meaning, and you're not going to be able to have the same vision or one that's even worth it. Sorry, she's going to do this probably the whole entire time.
No, it's fine.
That's okay. She's super cute.
I kind of like
And cuddly. Looks cuddly and friendly.
you're cuddly girl. Huh?
What you said, Amanda, reminded me, I didn't write this down, but for one of my classes we talked about, it was last semester, I don't know why, it was like a 400 class, I can't remember which one, but we talked about nonprofit organizations, and a lot of them tend to fail when it comes to like staying focused on their mission statement. When they deter from that, they tend to like do things that are out of their like league or out of their way of helping people. So when you are able to focus on the mission statement, then you're able to like help people more in that area.
And I really like that too. That's one of the things I feel like that I need to focus and hone in on, is establishing that. So it's really good to hear, because I don't feel like that family life education in and of itself is enough really to like carry you financially, like to be able to provide. So it's like, I feel like I have to incorporate other things as well. And so incorporating other things, but then still sticking to a mission statement, that's going to be a little tricky, I think.
Yeah.
It also seems like they kind of talked about having like a vision as a learner. And I don't know, that's kind of what I got from it as well.
Yeah.
So maybe just going into something, knowing what you're going to want to take out of it, and like allow people to do that before, you know? I don't know.
Plus, like they started up, like even say you work with a partner or a group of people, you don't have to necessarily have the same vision. You can have different visions as long as they're like cohesive. It actually makes whatever you're working on more rounded and have more depth.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I also thought it kind of reminded me of, I don't know why, but it just brought my mind to the 12-step program for like addictions. Step 4 talks about like having a self-inventory. And so it kind of sounds like a far stretch, but the focus is like to understand your strengths and your weaknesses. And so it kind of reminded me that through this evaluation process, we're able to understand the strengths and weaknesses that we have, and if we're actually meeting the needs of our audience. And 12-step program, step 4 talks about, you know, when you do this, you're just able to actually get on the path and meet the goals that you desire, instead of just kind of like passively teaching or passively living life kind of thing.
I like what you said about weaknesses, because our workshops are not going to be just full of strength. They're going to have weaknesses. They're going to have, I wouldn't say flaws. There's going to be things that aren't as strong because of something that we do, something that we don't have access to. And so I think it's good and okay to acknowledge those weaknesses, so you know how to maybe work around them or compensate for them. Because if you say like, oh, my workshop is completely strong, you're obviously missing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's part of the learning process. I'm sure that's probably what you said, is recognizing those things where you're weak, so that you can make changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also like be willing to accept that feedback and know that it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thoughts on the feedback or the data?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And every time to get people to get that. Well, when I did my my little test class that I did, and even then I only did like 15, 20 minutes. And someone brought up a point which I thought was really great, but I didn't even think about. But they're like, hand out a piece of paper, even if it's like with a handout with just the highlights of what you're talking about, because of the fact the one gal said, I'm a doodler. And it's not that, because I guess her learning, maybe she's like a little ADD or something. She goes, I'm a doodler and I have to have something in my hand and doing something. I learn better that way when I can, sit and do that. And I mean, I never thought of that because that's, I don't have that same learning method that she does. And so I thought, okay, that's really great. I never thought about that. So I thought, just hand out a piece of paper and have pins there, because maybe there are people in the audience who do have that. They're they need to keep their hands busy or whatever. So
yeah, or maybe I've thought about bringing pens and papers too, just so people could take notes if they didn't bring anything too.
Yes,
maybe they just didn't think they would want to take notes or anything, and then they realized they do. And so
I actually
good feedback though.
Little notebooks. I mean, they're like 12 sheets of paper, but they're just these little ones. And I think I got 24 of them for like $6 or something. And so that's what I'm putting with mine, because I'm a doodler. Even when I sit in Release Society, I have my iPad up and I have this app where it's literally notes, but I can copy and paste. I can put quotes in, I can put pictures in, I can doodle. And so if I'm not doing that, my mind goes everywhere. So I understand that 100%. That's me. People are like, are you paying attention? I'm like, yeah, I know I'm coloring this flower here, but I'm actually more focused than if I was staring off into space.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, and I like your notebook idea. That's really great to just get a little.
Yeah.
You want me to show you them? I can go grab one.
Yeah.
Where did you get them?
I'll be Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Where else? Of course.
Yeah, seriously.
Love Amazon. So I heard all these. I think that the two of you were talking that you're going to teach. So you haven't actually taught any classes yet?
No, have you?
Tonight's my first night. But I'm having the same fears as you are. It's like, who's going to be there? Will anybody show up? What if nobody shows up? So that's making me really nervous today. I'm just like,
okay.
Has anyone told you if they're going to come or anything?
Yeah, I've had a couple of people say that they would be there for sure. But I really hope that more than 2 people show up, of course. And so
I know.
Okay, so these are the little Sadie, stop. The little notebooks.
Oh, cool.
Oh, cool.
So cute.
Well, they're tiny, but I got this along with I got name tags.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. See, I need those. Okay, so what did you look for? What did you search for the little notebooks? Just a little notepad or?
For me, I can even look it up and send the link to you guys, because it took me a while to find something that was in my price range that I thought would work. And then in addition, I got folders so I can put handouts in here, and a little notebook and pens. I think everything that I got, I have about 24 of each, besides the pens and the name tags. I got more. I think it cost me like $30, and I know it's a tax write-off for me. So I was like, well, it's part of my education. It's a tax write-off. So but yeah, Amazon.
Totally prepared. You are totally prepared.
Well, my lesson plan is still driving me crazy on some places, but
I know that the lesson plan is, I don't know. I feel the same. I can go forever about it, but yeah.
I I just got mine approved like 2 days ago, but I still need to do the PowerPoint and everything. I haven't done that.
See, I'm the opposite. I don't have my lesson plan approved yet, but it's because as I'm doing the lesson plan, I'm doing the PowerPoint
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's probably smart though.
so we'll see. Yeah. So do you think we've talked about lesson 7? Should we move on to lesson 8?
Yeah, let's move on to lesson.
And this is the article, right?
And then the appendix.
Yeah.
There's the Appendix E and professional ethics and practice, which is one of the articles. They're super similar. Just integrity, honesty in your own life and professional life. Yeah, that's
Well,
kind
and I
of
love that ethics, that code of ethics from the NCFR, because it really, I feel like for me, it draws that line that you won't cross, because I know the article talked about that, like, where's that defining point between therapy and family life education and that. And I like that in the code of ethics, it really, for me anyway, drew that line. I will do this, and there's certain things I will not do, because I'm not that, I'm not a therapist. I'm not trained in this or that. So even though it's not comprehensive, but I felt like at least it gave a good foundation and just a general idea. I guess there's always going to be questions about it, right? Is that how you guys feel too?
I think so. I kind of likened it to I'm a concealed carries permit holder. Actually, I will be here in a few days once I get my actual license. I've been approved. But when we did that class, it was kind of the same thing. It was like, okay, here's the guidelines. Here's when you can and can't shoot. Here's when you can show your gun. Here's when you can't show your gun. Here's where you can hide it. Here's where you can't. But there was a huge but. We cannot go over every single situation.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. And that's how I feel about ethics in general. It's okay. There are guidelines. There are lines drawn in the sand, but at the same time, it's not going to be possible for us to go over every single situation or even conceive of every
right.
situation.
Right.
I think that's why it's so important to also lean on our values a little bit, because if we have our clear values and clear idea of what we will or will not do ahead of time in those difficult situations, it will make it easier. Because like I know for me, when I was thinking about, having to shoot someone, I know that's terrible, but it was, okay, well, where is my line? Okay, my kids are threatened. Am I willing to go to jail for shooting someone if I felt my kids were threatened regardless? Yes, that is my value. That is something I've established that is within what we were taught. And I think it's the same thing with the ethics, because there really isn't a line drawn in the sand.
Right.
Necessarily. Right. I don't know if I'm...
Well, like you're saying, for every situation. I mean, it gives us these guidelines, but like for every situation, like you said, it's just very unique. And I think I like what you said. And I think for me, it's like being true to myself. Because I know, I hope I will know, as long as I stay within these boundaries, of what's outside of my realm of expertise or my realm of even comfortableness, being comfortable with something. And I think if I stay true to that and understanding my own limitations, then hopefully that's when I can say, hey, nope, this is when you need to go see somebody. That's above my pay grade. You need to probably go see a counselor or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even referring someone somewhere else. It's thinking about, we had those case studies where you thought there was a good case for abuse. At that time, it's not referring it to someone else. It's, okay, well, the dad says that if he feels threatened in any way, he'll pull everything. But at the same time, we have not only an ethical duty, but we literally by law have to report it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that delegation is kind of something, Melody, what you were saying, I wrote it in my outline, that delegation is important. And I think that sometimes we might want to carry so much on our shoulders. We want to be the hero, or we do have expertise, so we think that we have all the answers, but there comes a time where, we delegate, we are able to provide resources that will help the family, the individual, more than we can on our own. And honestly, it could be exhausting to our own health if we try to take on things on our own. So there's a lot of resources available.
Yeah.
Right. So it's important to have a good stockpile of those resources too.
Yeah.
About, you know, our own personal health, because that was something I actually I wrote about in lesson 9, because I have a couple people, not in my life necessarily, but I've worked with at Evermore who are in this field in one way or another, and they talk about how draining it is and how some people didn't take any breaks, you know, for the first 3 years, and they burnt out and they, you know, completely just gave it up, versus other people who, you know, every couple of months or whatever would take a step back for their own health, and then they have a longer endurance period. So we want to help families, whether we, you know, just stay as a family educator or go on for therapy or something else. It's so important to make sure our health and our family's health is important, because if that's falling apart, it's harder for us to do our own job.
Yeah. We wouldn't be able to help everyone else if our life is falling apart too.
Yeah.
Balance. That's always the hardest thing.
Yep. Yeah.
Yes.
Lesson 9's reading was really cool. It made me think about, so I don't know if any of you know who Brother Radcliffe is, but he's on campus, and in his marriage class, the first 2 weeks, the first week, we learn about, he has us read a chapter from Elder Bednar's book, Increase in Learning, and it's about doctrines, principles, and applications. So it's like, it answers the why we do things, the what, and the how, like how we do it. And he talks about how a lot of times we just keep doing without having purpose, without understanding why we're doing it. Or sometimes we may know why we're doing it, but we never become anything because we're so focused on just doing. And so I just think that this concept of understanding doctrines, principles, and applications has literally transformed my life, because it's helped me to take this idea and apply it to my life, to marriage, to family, to professional work, and has allowed me to really just, I don't know, change my behaviors, or become rather than just do. And so I think that, you know, in whatever field that we are in regards to family or whatever we do, we need to know why we're doing it. You know, what's our mission statement? What's our principle? And then we live by the principles, truth-based guidelines to help us fulfill the things that we want to accomplish in our own life and in other people's lives. So that was just, I really love that concept that Elder Bednar taught in his book.
That's awesome. Wasn't there like a conference talk kind of similarly?
Yeah, probably. A lot of the prophets and apostles use what they write about in their conference talks.
I think it was either Nelson or Monson talking about how, you know, the Lord's going to reveal things through his servants, but they don't want us just to act on because
Yes.
they told us. It's no, that's actually that's not your duty. Your duty is to find out ourselves first.
It's learning to dance to the music. Remember, it was the old Indian, and he said, with the doctor, and he was talking about dancing, and he said, "No, you just don't hear it." But I think that was the springboard for the talk, is teaching the kids not just to dance, but to hear the music. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
That was the but I think it was that same concept that you're talking about. But anyway, so as I was reading this and thinking about this and the purpose for family life education that it was stated in that article, it said that we're building knowledge and teaching skills so that families can function at an optimal level. So teaching seminary, we have in our doctoral mastery, one of the first one we start out with acquiring spiritual knowledge, and we in teaching them is okay. So it's an acronym for ask. You want to ask questions, and so that's the A. Of course, you ask questions. The S is seeking information from divinely appointed sources, and then the K is keeping an eternal perspective. I think we can apply this to family life education, because asking questions are the questions like we've been talking about. It can apply in a lot of different ways, but the things that we've been talking about, as far as why are we doing this, you know, why are we here? Why are the people coming to us? What do they need to know? What do they need to hear? So, and as they come to us with those questions, as long as we seek out information, well, we're not going to go divinely appointed sources, but if we seek it from validated sources, like they've talked about for our lessons, if we've gone to, a valid and research method or a research program, something that here are the results. And so we use those sources that have been validated and they're good sources. And then to keep it an eternal perspective, instead of that, if we just keep this perspective of, like we talked about, our mission statement, our skills and abilities, and we keep that perspective of what we're here to do and what our boundaries are. I don't know. I'm just sitting here thinking about this and applying it. I'm thinking it applies to what we're doing. And if we can keep that ask in mind, that should help us maybe to stay within those boundaries that we're trying to set within, not crossing the line. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's like a foundation that you have to keep learning, keep building, and then kind of fulfill what you as a family advocate want to do. So, yeah.
I want to add something from lesson 9 because we're just about out of time. I'll add that sometimes I feel that people, when I tell them I'm going to marriage and family studies, they go, oh, you can be a counselor. And so people don't put as much stock in being an educator versus being a therapist. But as it was talking about the, where did it go? Talking about the FCMs, the family mediators, essentially. I've seen this in my work with CASA, where they bring in educators, and they have to help the family, because it's like, okay, judge goes, yep, you need to go to counseling, but at the same time, you need to become educated. So here are all these classes that you are required to take. So in the course of law, when people are trying to fix a family or help children not be abused or neglected, these are both required things. So for me, it was more of a justification. Like, you don't have to be a therapist. You don't have to be a counselor. There are places for educators. There is a misconception if you're not in the field that educators like, oh, you're going to teach a class, woohoo. But it really is part of people's healing process and learning process to help their family.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Absolutely. I think that there's, it's something almost like, I feel like there's so many things, like if you get a driver's license, you have to go through a testing process. If there's so many things, it seems like that's the case. But if you want to get married and have a family, there is none. And all you really have to fall back on is what you've seen growing up in your family, which 100% of the time is not always healthy. You've not been given that model. And so the education part, I think, is huge. I think it's huge. And for me, I like the idea of being preventive, going into the preventive end of it, rather than let's try and fix it now that we're, it's broken or we're having problems. It's to go in and try to teach so that they can have a healthy beginning and a healthy situation right from the get-go.
Cool. Great thoughts. I shouldn't say cool, but great thoughts. Do you guys want to end it and continue talking about anything you want to talk, or what do you guys want to do?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, let me just stop this.